And welcome once again to the Rockin' Podcast, number 5. Here we are, June 25th, day 1700 of quarantine. How are we all doing? Boss man. And here tonight with us, we got the usual cast of characters and crew. We got Sheila Conlon up here. We got Olson over here from the Twisted Brown Trucker Band, Stephen Perkins, Jane's Addiction, Scott Page, Pink Floyd. We got Derek Day, the Art Bird over there. Yeah. EXP, and of course, Norwood Fisher, Fishbone, and our special guest today, the one and only Peter Katsis. How we all doing? How's everyone doing?
Doing good.
Legendary.
So, you know, we got a couple cool things lined up for tonight. We got another guest we're going to bring in at some point as well. But let's, you know, last week or last show, we had Tony Brownagel and Kenny Gradney of Little Feet. We just want to throw them a shout out, thank them for being with us and joining us on the show. That was a lot of fun. And, you know, this week we've got some fun stuff too. But last night, let's take like a moment and talk about what happened last night, because what I feel like last night was a historic moment. I think what happened has never happened before. And who wants to Scott, tell us about like what happened last night?
I think what's, you know, one of the interesting things that are happening right now is clearly we have to reinvent the entertainment space, right? The world's a whole different place, and I'll be anxious to hear Peter's take on how he sees how this is going. But, you know, for us, we've, you know, with Think, our whole thing has been really focused on kind of the immersive entertainment space. We believe that the experience is really what matters now. That's where the money is. It's very difficult to sell music. So we started really thinking about, like, you know, I believe this is the greatest time in history for the entrepreneur that I've ever seen in my life. There's so many incredible things that need to be kind of problems to be solved. And I think one of them is clearly, how do we deal with, you know, the music industry with all this new live stuff? So we've been building a whole business model kind of around kind of 3 different things. One, obviously the live event, which will be tied to a smaller group of audience can actually be there. Second, really taking advantage of the streaming infrastructure, but really thinking about it in a 2-way model. Everybody thinks about it as a way that we can stream out, you know, like the YouTube experience we're watching. But since we now have people coming in, we can start bringing people into the actual thing. So last night we did our show where we set up and we had 12 80-inch monitors, and we brought everybody in on Zooms, and we had the entire audience online, and we communicated back and forth, and we made it feel like a giant living room. And it was great because it was fun to see people from all over the world coming in, actually having conversations with them. We actually got to talk to them about, they got their lighters out, and on the end of Comfortably Numb, they were holding the lighters up and stuff. So
they were.
A whole new model. And, you know, we're really focused on even taking this even further. How do we bring the next experience into the living room? So we're experimenting with a whole bunch of ideas in that space. And last night was a blast. We hadn't played probably in 4 months, and it was really fun. And I don't know how you guys felt, but it was actually very interesting. It actually felt like people were there when you have that big audience on all screens. And it was very interesting because, you know, one of the things that I've been noticing is, you know, this new behavior of us playing and working together. I notice how it's actually very satisfying. Sometimes I'll have my FaceTime on and I'll have 4 or 5 of my friends. You know, I'm outside watering the yard, somebody else is cooking, and just kind of hanging out. And it feels like you're there. So I think this idea of being able to bring the people into that space, I think there's some business models that can tie to all of that. And we have some kind of unique spins that we're working on to bring it into the home in a whole new way that we'll be announcing later, but we're not talking about just yet.
It was very cool because, I mean, the word music comes from the word muse, and being able to see those people in front of us, you know, like you were saying, there was that muse interaction that I felt, and we all felt. And I just want to add, just seeing all you guys again playing live again after months was just awesome. It was well worth me risking flying back out to LA. So.
No, it was amazing. I mean, I saw it from behind the scenes, and then when you guys were on the stage, and you know, the interaction with all the people watching from their living room, and the comments coming in was unbelievable. Everybody was happy, they were cozy, they were having their glass of wine or whatever they were doing, and they were raving about the performance.
Yeah, we
Raving.
actually
A
had
lot
a,
of feedback.
we
Tons
actually had
tons of feedback because it's so nice. We can be very intimate and take a very personal kind of a you know, a way to do that with people, which is very interesting because it's interesting to see how people really like when they can actually be part of it and they're talking to you and they're actually part of the video. So it's a very interesting model. I'm
Yeah,
very
there was
excited
actually-
about where this can go.
actually people driving in their car watching the concert.
Mhm.
Another guy had an acoustic
Little
guitar.
dangerous.
One guy had an acoustic guitar on. He was jamming along with us.
Yeah.
So
That
it
dude
was
ruled.
actually, it was even a little more layered than a regular rock show. We were able to bring everybody in and to play with you guys in the same room and to have the eye contact with my musician friends was a healing experience for me. I went home. I really felt good about it. I teared up at home thinking, wow, I love to play drums, and not only alone, but with my friends.
This is the view. This is the view from the band's perspective. The band is from behind Will, looking at all the Zoom screens that were in front of the band, and all those are different people that were tuned in. Pretty crazy, right?
Very cool.
Yeah. Great.
Were you able to zoom into the one performance?
I'm sorry, say that again, Peter.
How many people were you able to zoom in?
Well, you know, again, this was a test run, so we had. I think there was like, you could have up to like, you know, we had I think there was like 100 and something people at the time. But you know, we're looking into other technology now that we kind of get a handle on it with a kind of a first run, you know. But you can see there's premium layers of service you could basically sell. You know, there's all kinds of different things that you can do. But it's really,
from my perspective, I gotta say, like 2 nights before, I was sitting with a couple of friends, socially distant, and we were talking about whether or not we were ever going to get to see live music again. Like, when are we actually going to get to see? Like, I feel like my soul is hurting by not getting to experience live music, and it felt so good to hear the sound, to feel. To see you guys, Derek, just, you know, going off the way you do. I love watching you play. You're really like an amazing
You know, what seems to pay off. What seems to pay off the most is in the more intimate live streams is the uniqueness of the performance. You guys doing something that they can't necessarily go buy a ticket to see. Obviously, because there's nobody doing shows, but also because the content you're coming up with is unique. One of the bigger things we did this year, we had Travis Barker, who's one of our guys, did that thing with Post Malone. And they didn't just do their songs, they did an hour worth of Nirvana. And, you know, when are you going to see that again? You're not going to see it again. So that's an opportunity that you know, artists kind of need to practice more. If we're going to do something online, let's do something they can't see anywhere else. Let's give them something unique and let's inspire people. Let's try to figure out how to truly inspire people with performance.
You know, when I watched the Post Malone performance, I really had the urge to pick my own camera view. And hopefully we can get to that point where I was like, I would love to see more Travis. Click. I would love to see, you know, have that viewer, just like when you're at a concert, you get to look at whatever you want to look at.
Right.
I was hoping that maybe soon we can have our own, you know, kind of like in the gaming world. Go ahead.
You'll be able to pick, let's say, from the particular cameras, which one you want to concentrate on. You could be your own director. A lot of people are working on that right now.
Yeah.
Oh, the chicks are gonna love that.
I want to jump in here before we get too deep into the conversation with Peter, because we got a lot of stuff to talk about with Peter. I want to quickly bring in a special guest just for a quick shout out, a quick hello. You know, for those of you that don't know, this is brought to you by From the Earth, which is our cannabis company, and Think EXP. And one of the top brands out there in cannabis products is a company called Papa and Barkley. Papa and Barkley, I'm bringing in Adam Grossman, who's the CEO of Papa and Barkley. Welcome, Adam. How you doing?
Yeah.
Adam, just make sure your mic is on. It looks like you're trying to connect to audio, but we're giving a brief little sort of intro. Papa and Barkley hit the market, when legal cannabis first came about, with topicals, CBD and THC and topicals, and have grown to be one of the more reputable, reliable, legitimate cannabis companies out there. And we're happy to have the CEO and founder of Papa and Barkley on with us, Adam Grossman. Welcome to the crew here. Let me quickly introduce you. We've got Derek Day over here. Raise your hand.
Hey, what's up?
We've got Norwood Fisher over here from Fishbone. We've got Stephen Perkins from Jane's Addiction. Kenny Olson, the Twisted Brown Trucker Band.
Hey, brother.
Scott Page from Pink Floyd. Sheila Conlon, the manager of the Think EXP and co-producer. And Peter Katsis over here from the firm. So, Adam, everybody got your little gift packs, and we handed them out last night. Almost everybody.
Yeah.
We just wanted to bring you in and introduce you to the crew. And anyone try the products yet?
I'm actually very excited about the inflammation one. I haven't tried it yet, so I'm going to start that. Is it see, I've got horrible inflammation. I got arthritis. My poor fingers are bending and it's driving me crazy. So I haven't tried it yet, but is there anything you should tell me that I should do? Double up on it, or what should I do?
For sure. And, there was like a different mix of products. Like you definitely put the balm on your hands and you'll get some relief from that. And the higher CBD count products help with the inflammation. CBD is a powerful anti-inflammatory, but you should probably start taking, and I can send you some, Scott, like our CBD rich 31 tincture. I think you have some in the tincture that's there. So that's, you want to take that on a daily basis, and you can take a lot of it. It doesn't get you high. It might calm you down and help your sleep cycle better after a while, but it's more systemic. So it takes 4 or 5 days really to build up in your system, and you titrate it the same amount every day. So you can start with a half dropper in the morning and a half.
But I just want to be very clear. Make sure you take the 30 to 1 and not the 1 to 30. There's a big difference.
That's right. The numbers are CBD first, THC second. So when you're reading the label, make sure you remember that.
What about if you just do both? 1 to 30 and 30 to 1.
So you mix together. What you want to find exactly, Kenny, is what the right ratio is for you, because we're all have our own crazy brains and blood and other stuff floating around in there anyhow. But yeah. It's all about finding that right mix. And thank you, David Moss, for that clarification, because I have mistakenly not mentioned that. And if you guys have, which I think some of you do, those 1 to 3 capsules, there's 22.5 milligrams of THC in that. They're powerful. And I've a couple of times, including, I actually sent to Sarah Silverman, and I didn't give the advice. And so if you take 2 of those, you will definitely be too fucked up, even if you're.
There's a great scene with me and Sarah in the movie Super High Me.
Oh my God, really? Tell her I apologize, because I completely I didn't mention anything, and apparently she had a really bad experience. So I please pass along my humble apologies for that one. But I'm glad you guys got it. It's so great. And thanks for including me. You guys are inspiring musicians, and I love it. And so
thank you.
Thank you for the care package. It's really,
thank you very much.
Awesome.
I'm going to get back to you on the inflammation. If it really helps, I'm going to be a happy guy, I'll tell you.
Yeah, you guys feel free to reach out, because it is totally a journey, and that's why we make a bunch of different products and different ratios. It can be confusing. I'd love to help out and have you guys enjoy and
excellent
experience. So
we love Papa and Barkley, one of the top, literally one of the top brands that we sell in our store. They're up in Humboldt County. They do all their products are solventless. They're basically extracting the flower, all the essence, the whole flower, all the essential oils that out of the flower, using water and ice to extract. It's very clean and
No chemicals, right? There's no solvents. Is that correct?
Solventless. Everything we do is solventless.
Okay.
Yeah, the
Thanks
real deal. It's
Yeah.
much appreciated. I'll tell you that.
so there you go, Adam. I just, thank you for popping in
You
with
can
us.
hang out if you want.
You're more than welcome to hang out and hang out for us with the show, or you can duck out. It's up to you. You're
awesome. I'd love to hang with you.
all right.
Hang out.
Hang with us.
Speaking of THC and shifting, Peter, someone give us some background on Peter. Someone who knows who's had Stephen, you've had a lot of experience with Peter. Why don't you give the proper
let's
introduction?
put it this way. His first office was at the Metro in Chicago. His office was actually at a rock club that Jane's Addiction and the Smashing Pumpkins played together in 1987, maybe. And I was wandering around backstage into an office by accident. There was Peter Katsis. So, he's always been at, from the top level to the bottom level or everywhere in between. He's always known about the business. He cares about the future. He cares about music. And every time I bring up either hip hop, soul, African, any type of music, he'd be able to have a conversation about it because he loves music and there's layers and layers of them. So I love Peter not only because he's got a great business sense, but he's an artist. He really is.
Is there also a business relationship between James and Peter?
Well, you know what? I remember Mark Geiger called me up once when I was booking the Riviera Theater, and it was time for the Ritual de lo Habitual tour. And I've been a little bit of everything over the years: a promoter, talent buyer, manager, booking agent. And Mark said, "So you want to do Jane's Addiction?" I was like, "Fuck yeah!" He goes, "Well, you got to pay me 10 grand, and you could only charge $9." And I said, "Well, I'm not going to make any money doing that." He goes, "I'm going to ask you one more time. You want to do Jane's Addiction?" And I said, "Fuck yeah."
And the rest.
And we've done 1,000 shows from here to Berlin to Timbuktu to Tel Aviv and back.
Yeah.
Wow.
Peter he's very much a legend. I remember I like being also the Midwest going way back, and even in the 90s, I remember in the early Kid Rock years, we were begging Peter to manage us. I was like, "Come on, Peter, please, you're the man." Peter, it's very roots.
Yeah, well, Peter was named the best manager in Vanity Fair. So best manager in the music business. So there you go.
I'm sure there's some bigger guys than me, but it's I'll tell
You
the one thing I could truly say is that I feel blessed because I still love this shit. I mean, it's through all the ups and downs and all the twists and turns that this business has taken over the last 30 years, I still rush to get to the phone in the morning. I still wake up every day, and I'm on the phone by 8:30. And obviously, I love the artists I work with, and they mean a lot to me. But I still love the business too. It's just
to be involved as it has been. You have the best reputation. People love you, including me. You've got so many amazing friends out there that you've done a lot for a lot of people. I just want to thank you.
So. You know what? After the show, you're great to hang out with late night in the hotel room to make really good fun, to have a good time.
That's half the fun right there.
It is. And you're the first one down in the lobby to have coffee ready for everybody. You're just unbelievable. You really
any good stories? Any good hotel room stories that we can talk about?
Stories.
Well, I do remember you told me that cannabis made you a little tired. And we were at the W in New York in my room. I think you blew out one hit, and before the smoke came out, you hit the floor. And actually, thank God you were snoring, so I just let you be until the next day.
Perkins.
Oh no, I got hotel stories. Huh? I'm sure we got a few hotel stories somewhere.
Yeah.
I remember hanging out with NXS once, and they had a whole floor of the Hemsley Palace in New York, a whole floor. And We started hanging around on Friday night. They had the weekend off. And on Sunday morning, I remember I was in the lobby walking across the street, checking out. I was walking across the street to get my own room at the Hilton. And Hutchins said, he goes, what are you going? We got a room for you upstairs. And I said, yeah, but I actually want to sleep.
Yeah, those days.
And you did. I'm guessing you did. You chose the sleep option.
I did.
Thank
Man,
God we didn't have cell phones. Thank
was
God there was no cell phones and cell phone cameras back in those days, right?
That takes
God.
all the fun of it out of it.
And he was
There were cameras. We often had to buy naughty pictures from people.
Yeah.
You know, as we were just talking about that Kid
Yeah.
Rock and Biscuit tour, somebody took some photos of everybody naked in the pool, and they had to be purchased.
You had to deal with a lot of like shenanigans from us on that tour.
Absolutely.
We were out, like, I don't know if you guys knew, we were out with Limp Bizkit for like a long stint, and yeah, Peter had to get catch news of quite a few antics. The Howard Stern one was classic. That's kind of a long story. I don't want to, but that was classics, especially the fact that it was 5:30 in the morning.
Give us the clip.
I always never had a problem challenging you. You know, that was always something that you had to come through, and obviously those two guys came through.
Kenny, let's go back to the Howard Stern. If it's that classic, give us the Cliff Notes. Let's go. We got time.
Well, I can do a quick Cliff Note version of it. It was me and Fred and Bob. We were just kind of just hanging out late night, and we decided, you know, we were a little Fred Durst and me and Kid Rock, and we decided to call Howard's show went on. You know, he starts his show at like 4 or 5 in the morning, and we were at that time period, we were kind of regulars. Peter, you know, a bunch of us were always performing on there. We got to know Howard, so we decided to call him at 5 in the morning, and he's like going, so what are you guys doing? What's a bunch of rock stars doing? We're like, we're just hanging out, calling you to bother you. He's like, you guys got no girls around? We're like, no. And Howard puts out there on the radio, well, and we had made the mistake by telling what hotel we were at. So the next thing we knew, we get a call from the front desk, and there literally was like hundreds of like girls, pimps, like people partying, like the whole lobby of this 5-star hotel in New York it fills up with people, and they want to kick us out of the hotel and everything. I mean, it was like, and Fred and I were like looking around the corner. We took the elevator down, see all this massive people, and it's 5 in the morning in New York in the hotel. We're just like, we got to get out. And we bolted back up to the room, and they had to call. You had to be there, but it was quite a ruckus for a 5 o'clock in the morning radio phone call.
The actual stereotype of rock star right there. That's it. That's
You know, I'll tell you though, as much fun as all that stuff is, and trust me, you know, I never regret having a really good time out there. Nothing really beats trying to figure out how to put on an incredible performance and how to truly inspire a large bunch of people in a room. That's something you could give people, that these artists could give people that nobody else can. And even the ones who played that hard usually also worked that hard to figure out how to inspire those big crowds. And that truly was what set them apart from anybody else. It wasn't because they could have the most fun or hang out with the most girls. That's not really what it was about. At the end of the day was, could they get 12,000, 20,000 people truly inspired for a day? You know what I mean?
How about a crowd this size right here?
That's as big as it gets. That's as big as it ever got right there.
How does that happen? Like, let's talk about this for a second.
Is that Woodstock?
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember us pulling in for that one, Peter.
Well, you know, if you think about Michael Lang and what he did back in the 60s, Jerry Garcia said it best. You don't get that many people in one place unless it's a battlefield. But music did it. And, you know, Derek's like, I think you're 25 or 26 years old, Derek?
Roughly, yes.
Yeah, I can't wait for you to get in front of a crowd like that, because what Peter was saying, this kid he's like a Pied Piper. Where he plays, people follow. And Norwood, every time I saw Fishbone, anybody who walked out of the room was in shock with their jaws down
They
on
were
the ground.
shaking something.
You know?
Yeah, buddy.
And that's
Yeah.
what it's about, leaving your blood and your sweat and your tears on the stage.
Those two Woodstocks in the 90s were very different for different reasons. 94, the kids all had a great time, but backstage was a nightmare. It was raining a lot. The load-in was terrible. Bands couldn't get in and out. John Scher had promised Tim Collins that if Aerosmith were to go on last, so it was 9 Inch Nails into Metallica, into Aerosmith. Aerosmith didn't want to close. So he convinced Tim Collins that he would absolutely be on stage no later than 11:30. And I think he ended up getting on stage about 1 o'clock. And the trucks couldn't load in and out in the back because it was all muddy and wet. And Tim Collins socked John Scher in the face backstage because he was all pissed off. That was Trent and everybody rolled around in the mud before they went on stage and kind of stole the show that day. And alternative music really kind of got a really good jump on harder rock at that point. But then 99 was totally different. It was they sold a couple 100,000 tickets. The kids knocked out, they were going to call it sold out. The kids knocked down the fence and another 120,000 walked in. They had 330,000 people there and no way to control them. But backstage, the bands didn't notice all that. The backstage was comfortable, easy to get in and out of. It was a breeze backstage, right? Then you go on stage and there's absolute mayhem going on and water was $15 or something and kids were starting fires and getting all upset and girls were getting harassed. It was impossible to keep control of something that big. It's like a city,
Right?
a city full of people.
Who Perkins, you were at 94 or 99?
94 with Corner for Pyros, and they put us between Allman Brothers and Bob Dylan.
That's awesome.
Come on.
Oh my
And
God.
but you know what? I flew my mom and dad and my sister out. My brother just passed away a few months earlier. So it was a family reunion with me on stage at Woodstock. And then Navarro was playing his first show with the Chili Peppers. So I grew up with Dave. So it was a little family reunion for my mom and dad and my sister to hang out with Dave. And then it was it was more of a family affair. And our singer barely made the show, but we played the hell out of it. We did a great night.
Chili's were like one of the only bands that played 94 and 99.
What's that?
Chili's.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Yeah, because they played it.
The final night with all the fires in 99, they were the headliners.
Yeah, because we played, remember Peter, we came in, see, Peter had us we were out with Limp Bizkit for almost over a year, weren't we? Because we went from Warped Tour in like 97 or whatever it was, and then we were on tour 98 up until 99 off and on with those guys. But I remember we played on Saturday, and we stayed until about probably 3 or 4 in the morning, and then we had to play a show like in Pittsburgh or somewhere like that on Sunday night. So we left before all the crazy fires and all the stuff went down on the last day.
Saturday, when all those kids were surfing on the 4x8 during Limp Bizkit show, that was actually part of the sound tower. They were ripping the sound tower apart and then surfing on the 4x8, and they were actually trying to like beat kids off with a baseball bat out there, just trying to make sure the sound tower didn't fall over.
Jesus.
But yeah, that's kind of when it all started going haywire.
I remember that.
Do you remember that, Derek, as a youngster watching that on TV or MTV, or you remember any of that, Derek?
I'm afraid not. You said that was 94?
99.
99? No, I'm afraid not.
He was watching Sesame Street or something.
Yeah.
You were building a rock stage with Legos.
Yeah, exactly.
It's obviously the festivals have come a long way, and when you watch, how professional things are handled at Coachella or at Lollapalooza, it's pretty amazing. Even though those crowds are considerably smaller, 120,000 or so, it's still it's still amazing how professional things are pulled off now. And, you know, as long as you could keep the crowd from, you know, being too big, you could, you have a chance to really, you know, let everyone have a great time.
That was the best. I mean, I'll still remember of all, played a lot, been blessed and played a lot of great shows. That walking out on that stage, it was just so surreal with like, I mean, that just sea of people, you know, here it's like in the middle of the afternoon when they put us on, and like and it was just insane. I remember I had Eddie Kramer and Janie Hendricks and Mini Me. Vern were out to the right of me as we're going on and stuff. And it was like, I'm all getting all pumped out, and I walk out in the sea of like almost 500,000 people. And they're like, and we just kicked it in. I was like, that was like the best high that I've,
Were you 94 also, Kenny?
no, we were 99.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, we were the 99.
I've watched that full concert actually, Kenny. And you have did you like dye your hair like a bright, like crazy ass?
No, that was our rhythm guitar flip. Jason had red hair. I had blonde. Yeah, I had like blonde short hair. It was like bleach blonde, slicked back, and
yeah, you're going crazy the whole time. You're like running across the stage like insane.
Yeah, I had. Yeah, you're right. I did have my hair was dyed like really blonde, and it was all spiked up and weird looking. Then, you know.
Scott,
Hey, Scott,
I was gonna ask Scott, what was the biggest crowd you played with Pink Floyd? Because those must have been massive.
Oh man, the wildest show I ever played, which I have to say it would probably be one of the greatest rock shows of all time, is we played in Venice on the water. They floated these barges down, 2 barges the size of football fields. Took 5 days to set up. I mean, had trucks on there and everything. It was a free Floyd concert in Venice, Italy, on the waters. We were 150 yards off of St. Mark's Square, and they ran a runway out to the sound mixing console, and people were coming in for days. They were living on gondolas and boats, and hundreds of thousands. I don't remember how many, but we completely closed the city and lit the entire canal as far as you could see down in whole St. Mark's Square, and all the hotels closed. All the restaurants closed. People were there. Was no bathrooms. There were nothing. And people were on the streets. They were pulling their hair out. When the show was on, it was off. The only way we could get out there is we had to get out by boats. And so it was like, you know, it was like $100 to take a ride to go like, you know, 100 yards, because those gondola guys were going chink, chink, making all those. But it was the most incredible thing. And it poured rain the nights before when they were setting the place up. And it was this whole, and then the day of the show, it just turned out a beautiful day. And there were, I mean, so many people living on the water for days out there. And they had these 2 giant barges that they put all the celebrities on, which they were going to wheel out in front, right? So it was filled up. I mean, it was the who's who of the music business were on these 2 barges. They tried to move the barges out. The people were anarchy. They're throwing bottles at them. They wouldn't let them. So all the celebrities had to be over on the side of the stage and watch on the monitors. They couldn't see the thing because the thing was so full. And then right after we played, they set off like a $500,000 worth of fireworks. And I remember that night, it was broadcast to 126 countries, that thing. And we got uplink a minute and 20 seconds before the show was going to go. It was like crazy. And that night afterwards, I went back. I filmed this thing like crazy. I stayed up for the 5 days. I just shot documentary on the whole thing. I got like probably about 15 hours of that show. And then what happened was I went over that night afterwards, and people were living on the street. The garbage, Venice was trashed. And I heard that the next day, the entire council was completely, they were all fired, and it was just the craziest thing ever. I've never seen anything like it. We played shows with Floyd, but that was so hard.
We have to have a party on your new deck that you built, Scott, and we got to watch that. I would love that.
I got a lot of it. I got 150 hours of Pink Floyd, believe it or not.
Yeah,
that's crazy, right? I haven't even looked at it yet. I haven't looked at it all.
Did they play the Pyramids or something as well?
I'm sorry?
Did they play out at the Pyramids one time as well?
We didn't do the Pyramids. I mean, the other big one we did was the Palace of Versailles. It was the first time anybody did that. We had about 90,000 people they built up around the outside. And that was wild because they built extra laser stations. They like 12 extra laser stations. And when Gilmore, I'll never forget this. Gilmour went to go to the solo and Comfortably Numb, and they hit that laser thing, and it built a grid completely over the top of about all 90,000 people. They couldn't believe it. And I could actually hear the audience go like that. It was just like crazy. So you can imagine that solo. He comes in on that big. Floyd was extraordinary in the way, they put the shows on. It was really
That's probably the best sound and the best shows throughout the history of rock. Although I was at Animals in Chicago.
Oh yeah.
I got to see Wish You Were Here. I got to see Animals. I got to see The Wall. Animals was one where the pig was flying over the crowd and the wire snapped. They had to somehow get the pig back to the stage before the pig fell on the crowd. And it was, you could see it happening, and it was just like all of a sudden, here's this flying pig, and all of a sudden, oh my God, it's coming down. And they were rushing it. They turned it around and rushed it back to the stage, and it barely got there before it fell into the crowd.
We saw wild stuff. Here's a flying pig story real quick. I'll tell you, we're in Australia. We'd never been to Floyd, never been to Australia. It was the first time we got there. And there's an island that's outside off the opera house, right? It's about, I don't know, it's a little place. It's like an area. So they have these parties. So the record company came in and they had this big wall that was covered up. And it was the first time after all the years, all the gold records and platinum albums that Floyd got. So it was a big thing, champagne, shrimp, we're all eating. And they had a giant pig that was there with the call letters, Pink Floyd. And they were going to have this pig at every show, at every stadium, right? And it's sitting there and it's filled with helium and stuff. And Gilmour's up on the stage and we're sitting there and I hear all of a sudden, free the pig. Free the pig. Everybody's looking up at the stage, watching Gilmour getting this record. They're going to announce the thing. And then the rest of the band. And so there's this giant, this thing was massive. They went over and they undid. I wish I had the pictures. They undid. So the guys in the band undid the thing. The pig takes off and the thing just starts flying up over the side. So everybody's freaking. This was the big pig that we're supposed to be using on all the shows. And this pig is flying. And I got all these pictures with the pig floating over the top of the opera house and stuff. They ended up having to shoot it down because it got up into freaking, fly patterns and stuff.
Yeah,
so they had
the flight airspace. Yeah.
They had some weird contests, and whoever found the pig could get tickets to come into the show. But just free the pig.
Norwood, what about that first Lollapalooza?
That was one of the sickest, most insane things that I've ever been a part of.
I would think so, right? That was the first one, and it was just crazy.
Yeah, it's like this, I don't know, like Fishbone met Perry Farrell at a hot dog stand in Hollywood with his band Psycom performing, right? Like before there was a Jane's Addiction, like we were all just puppies, It was like a hot dog stand on Cahuenga, I believe.
Wow.
And, so.
And that led to the friendship that.
Yeah, so that led to the friendship. So all the things that we had all done together, like barbecues at this place on Wilton, like just running around clubs, discovering things. And then we get to like Lollapalooza. And it's like, my favorite thing about the first Lollapalooza, it was the last show of the first Lollapalooza, because Fishbone only played 2 shows.
That's right.
Right? And we played Dallas and Seattle.
That's right.
And so we had already played and I watched most of the show, and it was insane. Like my favorite thing was like Gibby Haynes, right?
Oh yeah.
With the shotgun.
Yeah.
I love Gibby. My boy.
But it was like I was standing backstage, and it was all this security at the Jane's Addiction dressing room. And I'm like, fuck that. Perry's my homie. I pushed the security aside, walked in the dressing room, And it was like I walked onto like into like Caligula world. It was like all these.
Hopefully they weren't eating shit.
Yeah, was there an armful of
No. It wasn't full on like that. But it was just, you know, like it was a lot of dancers and whatnot going, like everybody like undressed, half dressed. Perry's in the middle of the room, and he looked like a Caligula figure sitting in the center of the room being tended to. And I was just like,
Jane's Addiction was supposed to break up in Seattle that night, but we honored our tour manager, Ted Gardner. He was from Australia. He really wanted us to bring shows to Australia. He wanted to bring us into his hometown. So instead of breaking up in front of 40,000 people, we ended up going to Australia and playing for clubs. And then we ended up ending our career there in front of like 300 people, you know?
You know, one thing you really got to give Perry props for was that lineup that first year, the diversity and the unity behind that lineup. You just didn't see that from other festivals at the time, you know, Living Color, and Violent Femmes, 9 Inch Nails, Susie and the Banshees.
Henry Rollins. Ice-T, Henry Rollins, Butthole Surfers.
Henry Rollins and the Buttholes. That's a diverse lineup right there. That's amazing.
That was one of my first, I remember, like, because, you know, I was back in the day, probably, Peter, when I first met in the Chicago days, and I was in Detroit and like the upcoming bands, and I was in this band Enemy Squad, which Norwood, you know, knows, my buddy Gabe and I grew up playing in Pornos for Pyros. Perkins, you guys canceled one show in Detroit, and it was the Lollapalooza in 93. And you guys didn't play that show, and we got to fill in for your spot because they're like, yeah, Pornos isn't doing. You guys were like, so we ended up playing on the side stage, and it was a Jim Rose Freak show. And Chris Cornell came over and drank. They were doing that little bio beer stunt thing, whatever. And I remember having to hold Chris up in the bushes because he did the stunt, whatever, and got on the stage. That's a whole nother story. But that was
They would drink a bunch of stuff and then pump the stomach and then hand it to some artist, and the artist would drink it.
It's like I had literally like Chris, you know, because a lot of those guys, Soundgarden, used to play in Detroit all the time, and you know, we had that back in the day, like in the late, you know, 80s and 90s. Peter can tell you that Chicago, Detroit, we were in all the bands like Jane's and Norwood, you know, and Fishbone and Chili Peppers. Everybody were always playing these cool, more intimate kind of venue things and stuff. But Lollapalooza was all of a sudden, like all these bands that were playing these more eclectic, cool places were playing these big outdoor, you know, sheds and everything. And it was just, for me, being part of that at that young age was just so awesome. I mean, it was like, I remember Ice Cube was playing that one, Soundgarden, it was like Pearl Jam, a bunch of great bands were playing on that. And for me, being at that time period, I was just, you know, still trying, you know, I wasn't with Kid Rock yet. We didn't get signed with Atlantic, and it was a lot of fun. It's crazy looking at all you guys now in this small world, because how we've all stayed connected for over 30 some years. I mean, Norwood and I have known each other since the late 80s. And even when Kid Rock, remember, Peter, we first signed with Flom, the first band we went on an opening out for was Fishbone. Wow. And they sent us out with those guys. And then we went from them to you having us open up for Limp Bizkit and the Warped Tour thing. But
you know, you mentioned one of the guys, probably one of the things I'm most proud of, you know, when Audio Slave went down to Cuba.
Yeah.
And we were literally the first American rock band to play Cuba. And obviously Cornell was a pretty special guy. And
he was.
That was a cultural exchange that President Bush actually, you know, agreed to. And so it was like a total shock, you know, that we were actually able to go. And the strangest thing was at the sound check, we noticed there was no barricade. And we were trying to tell the Cuban guy, we were trying to tell the production manager, where's the barricade? You need a barricade. You don't understand this audience. And he said, no, the kids will be very calm if we tell them to be calm. And we were like, no, you're crazy. We need a barricade. He goes, the barricade's coming. When we got back from the hotel after the sound check, we went back to the hotel. We came back for the show. It wasn't a barricade. It was bike rack, right?
Those are like only like what, 2 feet tall?
So I remember Cornell actually, like I had to get in the pit myself with all these guys holding this bike rack up, which ended up looking a lot like metal rope after the show.
Wow. And Chris could step right over that with his height.
Cornell was having a good giggle, pointing at me, go, look at Katsis in the pit trying to hold that thing up. These kids were just having such a great time. They were hopping. No one was hurting each other. They were all picking each other up. It was a beautiful sight. It was really beautiful. But bike rack wasn't going to do the job. You know what I mean? So, you know, it was a wonderful experience. But even the best laid plans in rock and roll sometimes just, you know, go astray.
More often than not, right?
Hey, Chris, I'm going to tell a quick story, Chris, because we all have love for Chris, and he was just such just a great guy. This is back in 1989, and they were playing at St. Andrews Hall, which you guys all remember that place and played many times. But so Chris was on stage, and Nirvana actually was on that bill too. And this is literally like 1989. I think Faith No More was the headliner. And Chris, you know, was on stage being the most amazing frontman that he is. And all these people were getting on stage, and the security guy there was getting all pissed off, and he was being a total dick, just like punching kids and throwing them back in the audience. And so Sandy, my roommate, walked up, and the security guy was standing on the end of the stage waiting for the next person to get on stage, you know, and Chris was looking over at me and Sandy. We were hanging, you know, we're like laughing, and he sees Sandy tying the security guy's shoelaces together. And Sandy's like, and I look at Chris, I'm like, look, you know, because he was our buddy, you know, and we just, you know, he's looked down, we're all like these youngsters in early 20s, you know, and like he looks and he ties his shoelaces. Chris calls these people up on stage, you know, like purposely to piss the guy off. He goes, make this move, and he just goes face plants. He's like, it was like the coolest shit ever.
I want to switch it up a little bit. I want to give Derek Day a little bit of love here. Derek Day, the youngster in the crew here. But for those of you that haven't seen Derek play, I mean, Derek's an amazing musician, an incredible talent, like energy that just never seems to end. Derek, let's tell us a little bit about, you know, what are some of your influences and how'd you end up connecting with Think? Like, how did that come about?
Well, you know, I
love catching you off guard, by the way. Every time we talk to you, it catches you off guard.
Man, I don't, you know, like, a lot of my major influences, you know, they're mostly guitar players like Stevie Ray and like, you know, all, you know, those Clapton and all those guys. And of course, and a lot of them are here right now. Like, just, you know, anyone that inspires me and pushes me to be like more out there, I'm like, there, you know, bam. So that's just, you know, as far as how I met Think, I was just I don't know, I was just like at a pre-NAMM show thing 2 years ago, and just by chance they saw like a song I played, and they're like, hey, like, sing, like, they were gracious enough to ask me to sing with them. Like, do you know any like Floyd songs? I'm like, yeah, I know a few, because I play on the street and stuff, and like they're just like, all right, cool. Like, I learned a bunch of covers, and so yeah, they just hit it off. You know, it was cool. It was with Kenny and Perkins and Scott and Norwood. You couldn't make it, so I think Fabrizio Grossi just took your spot real quick, and so
yeah, it was a Tuesday night. That was, I think, Norwood, I didn't think was still getting back in town.
Yeah,
I think you were on tour.
They told me about you. They were like, I got a call, like, oh, you won't believe. Derek Day.
That was such a small world too, because I saw Derek, met him in Nashville a year before. He was opening up for Living Color because Vernon Reid, you know, was rave, and Corey Glover like going, you got to see this guy opening up for us, you know. So I made it there early, you know, they go, don't miss this opener. And I watched Derek, he fucking blew my mind. I was like, what the fuck?
And I mean,
He's awesome.
I wish we could say, go see him next week at wherever it's going to be, but we can't. So where's the best place for people to check your stuff out, Derek?
I suppose like derekdaymusic.com or just Derek Day Music on Instagram and stuff. I do live streams here and there. I used to do them every Wednesday, but I think life was just getting crazy all around the world. So I was like, let me just slow that down and let me just kind of process what's going on. So really just, if you follow the page, I'll let you know. I'll be like, it's right here, right there.
You know, Peter, we had a 3-hour layover in Warsaw.
Yeah.
And we couldn't find Derek. And all of a sudden, I hear this acoustic guitar flamenco Spanish singing artist on a wheelchair screaming by. It's Derek Day. He steals a wheelchair. He starts serenading, and everybody from the TSA officers to the old ladies to
They were
young
loving
kids,
it.
It was so funny.
he stole the show at the airport. I mean, it was just it was one of the greatest performances I've ever seen.
They were loving it.
Yeah.
You gotta get footage of that. Content is king.
Oh, we got footage of it.
Little bit.
So we
did.
got it.
So, hey, I'd like to ask Peter, because before this guy, I'm really interested, because you've been in this game so long, and we've got a massive shift. This is a major change right now in the way things are going to be done. I would love to hear your perspective on how you see this unfolding, and where do you think the opportunities are, and what do you think is going to happen next?
You know, obviously, we're going to get back to live performance, and we're going to, it's going to be a matter of time. Is it a year? Is it a year and a half? Who knows? To a certain extent, some of those first shows back are going to be people are going to be very excited for them as well. On the other hand, there's probably 20% of the audience that's not going to go to a show for a couple of years just because they're a little too concerned with staying healthy. And I can't really blame anybody either.
Yeah.
The live stream experience is here to stay. You're probably going to see it extend way past when concerts are going on. You're probably going to see people carry camera crews with them on a lot of major tours and live stream every show, much like guys like Willie Nelson and Fish do now, so you're going to see more of that happening. And then as far as the live stream stuff goes, you're going to see it graduate very soon into full-fledged shows. There's going to be a lot less, live from the bedroom solo acoustic-y things going on. We've been watching that now for months, and people are ready for more.
What these guys did yesterday is just that. It was next level, full production, stage, lights, multi-camera. I don't know if that was 4K, but it was super high quality. The sound was amazing. And it was really incredible, like sitting in my room and watching the screens and people watching and then interacting with them, where you could, in between songs, talk to the people that were watching. It was really kind of like,
there's some new people creating technology too. So far you haven't been able to play together from different spaces across the city because of the Wi-Fi and
latency,
timing issues. There are people saying that they've solved that now. There's new technology coming out so that the 5 of you could be in your own houses and play together. We'll see how that goes. But everyone's getting really creative. Anybody see that Flaming Lips performance on Colbert, where everybody's inside a plastic bubble?
Yep.
So they were able to social distance and actually be in a crowd in front of the band. Even the band were each in their own bubble. It was like being in a balloon. It was quite inventive. I think that's going to keep people interested and keep people watching. We have to challenge ourselves to come up with interesting ways to present.
Yeah, interesting. And what do you think about the labels and stuff. Think about new artists in general, you know, because obviously the big guys have audience already and getting the audience. And obviously we're now at a point, I personally believe, I think this is the greatest time in the history for the independent artist, but you got to think like a startup. You got to be a little bit more savvy than just write songs and get on. You've got to figure out how you're going to build audience, but you know, you can have a smaller amount, a smaller audience.
For example,
A lot of the
Kind of
hip
goes
hop,
back to that.
a lot of the hip hop guys are certainly finding ways to connect quickly and grow quickly by their message, which is important. They're reaching their audience with the right message, and that's part of it right here too. I think that you know, it's also time music started standing up for people again. I think we all came from that, from the 70s, you know, and I think we all continued that into the 90s and the early 90s with Lollapalooza and even with grunge. But, you know, I think it's even more important now than ever that people stand up for each other and people stand up for unity. And, you know, we can't afford to ignore these issues anymore. We gotta make something of this world. We gotta make this world better because the other people try to fuck it up. So,
Well,
Peter, hey, Peter,
think EXP's been involved in trying to make the world a better place. You know, I've been in the philanthropy world for many, many years, and Think EXP has supported the organization that I work with which works with inner city kids in South LA. And we're now currently in the process of building a music school in Watts that's going to be a free music school for the community where kids and adults can come and learn how to play an instrument. And Think EXP is a big part of that. Flea and the Chili Peppers are a big part of it. Norwood Fisher, obviously. We have Paul Tollett is a big part and on our board. Bob Forrest is on our board. So it's an exciting time, and we're very, very committed to giving back and making the world a better place, because that's all we got, you know? That's all we got.
It's exciting to see like those young kids that kind of screwed Trump up the other night with the getting all the seats.
Yeah.
Well, it's cool to see the activity. I mean, whether you're, you know, what from one side or the other, it's your own business, I guess.
So
but
we're getting down to it here on time wise. We're almost down to the end of our show, and we always like to end the show with some bit of music. And today, our musical guest is the one and only, the legendary, the man, the myth, Scott Page is going to kind of take us out with a little sax piece here. So Scott.
Right.
Okay, well, so usually, you know, saxophones are not usually a cappella instruments very much. We usually play with bands, at least I do. So, but I'm going to play one. So I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to see if anybody knows this song. It's a great old song. It's a great old Torch song. I'll see if I can remember it, but let's see. All right, here we go. Okay.
Back up so we can see you.
That's as far I can't. My couch is there. You're going to watch my bell. I'm playing here.
Ring my bell.
Is it working? I left my cap off. Okay. Uh-oh. I got a leak. Hold on one second.
Ring my bell.
I got a leak too.
Uh-oh. Hold on.
There you go.
Something's going on with my horn. No. Yeah. Whew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is
What
it?
song is that? Can everybody remember what song that is?
No.
Ah, theme song to Mike Hammer. It's called Harlem Nocturne by Earl Hagen.
Oh, right on.
Bravo. I'll write that down. I'm writing that down.
Awesome. Awesome.
Thank
I
you,
know
Scott.
there was some good runs of steel on the guitar on there, wasn't there?
Yeah, hell yeah.
We should work that up with Scott because some of that stuff would have been cool.
It's a great tune.
Hell
It
yeah.
was fun with the band.
To hear you breathe and grunt between the parts is beautiful.
I love
Yeah,
that.
that's the real deal. That's the way the real players.
All
That's
right. Well, thank you very much.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Peter, thanks for joining us today,
Oh,
man. I miss you. I
Peter.
miss seeing
Pleasure,
you.
guys.
Yeah, bro.
yeah, Peter.
Yeah,
Peter,
thanks.
thank you for everything you do and being the awesome person you are,
Thanks.
and a great friend through the years. And
Uh,
one of these days, I want to ask you more too about like the industry, how it's like changing, even with like there's just so it is. I think about it every day. But I'm trying to like with these guys, we're just trying to be ahead of it all. But thank you for all your wisdom and input there too.
Well, thank you.
And
Thanks
on,
for having
and
me.
on that note, I just want to thank everybody once again. Adam from Papa and Barkley, thank you
Thank you, Adam.
for
Adam.
what you do, and thanks for joining us. Peter, thank you for joining us. It was amazing. It was great. This is the Rock and Talk Show brought to you by From the Earth. You can find us at fromtheearth.com and Think EXP as well. We're going to be back in 2 weeks. Who knows
July
what
9th.
madness? What?
Thank you, Adam.
July 9th.
Thank you, Peter.
Thanks,
And on
guys.
that note, I think I'm going to take us out. Here we go.
Love you guys.
See you guys. Ha
Is that it?
that
That's
was
it.
it.
That's it.
You guys
You're
later.
so.
And then I think.
Thanks, you guys. Thanks, David. It was great.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, Adam. Thank you for
All right,
everything,
you
brother.
guys.
Look
We'll